So we are going to start. So the training for today is for counseling and testing. And we're going to have 2 sessions of this training, today and tomorrow. On your schedule, you might find the time extends beyond 12 noon, but most of the time we'll try to finish before 12 noon. The reason for the long time frame is so that you can budget enough time, and if we go beyond 12, we don't go beyond the time on your schedule. So we will try to keep all the trainings finished before 12 noon every day. So for everyone here, we are going to start with an introduction. Most of the people are new today. My name is Mildred Fakoya. I am the systems developer. I am a software engineer, a data scientist. I'm the developer of the system, and I will be the facilitator of the workshops throughout. Can we get an introduction of everyone on the call? We'll start with Antigua.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Leah and I'm the project officer.
Sorry, we lost you.
Sorry?
I mean, we lost you. We couldn't hear. Oh, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Zia and I'm the project officer at Breakout.
Okay.
Hi, good morning. I'm Juliana Darrow, acting ward system maternity unit.
Good morning, everyone. Alexandrina Wong from Women Against Rape in Antigua, Barbuda.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lydia Martinez, HIV counselor and tester from AIDS Secretariat, Antigua.
Good morning, Alfonso. Roberts, Dominica, Community of Freedom.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Glever Williams from St. Vincent, attached to
Dr. Josie Davy from St. Vincent.
Attached to the ID clinic.
Rosa Clinic, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Good morning, everyone. Tunisia Vino from St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Winfield Tanis Abbott, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Carlisle Grant, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Roxanne Benjamin, Health Promotion Officer, Grenada.
Good morning, I'm Monica Lavinier, attached to the Grand Bay Health District, registered nurse, Dominica.
Good morning, everybody. Navia Jack from St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Yolanda Rodney John Baptist, registered nurse in the Commonwealth of Dominica, La Plaine Health District.
Good morning, everyone. Lujan Taveras. I am a counselor in the HIV unit in Dominica.
Okay. Do we still have anyone?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Keynes, HIV counselor and tester from St. Kitts and Nevis.
Good morning, everyone. Judy Nesbitt, Nevis, clinical care coordinator.
Okay, welcome everyone. Before we go ahead, can we all edit our names to our correct first name and last name? And if you are in a group, can you put the first name of everybody in that group as the name of the participants? And this is to make attendance easier and complete, if you don't mind. You can edit your Zoom name to be your first and last name. And if you are in a group, the first names of everybody in the group. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Yes. Now, I will give you an overview of the system so that we can have an easier login going forward. You will notice that on the top right of the system, when you get to the home page or the landing page, you will find an icon, like a profile icon, at the top right of the page. When you expand this icon, you will get a login to patient management and reporting system and a login to training. Now, these are links to two separate systems working as one. If you try to log into patient management and reporting system using your training account, your account will not be found. So you will get a wrong detailed error. If you have an account on the patient management and reporting system, and you enter the email and the password, you will be directed to the patient management and reporting system. Now, every morning when you want to get into a training workshop, you have to log into training. If you have received an activation email and you have set your password, you enter the email address and the password. Make sure you are logging into training. On the login form, you should see training and certification. If you are sure you have set your password and you are having difficulties logging in, click here to reset the password, enter the email address, try using the password without numbers and special characters, and then you send. You should receive a password reset email with a link. You click on that link, reset your password. Every time you are trying to get into the training portal to view your schedule, you have to log into training. Every time we are going to have a hands-on session, you will log into patient management and reporting system. Some people have gotten 2 emails to activate the 2 systems. Most people got 1 email. So during the course of this training and up until tomorrow morning, you will get activation email to log into patient management and reporting system, where you can access the case-based system for practice using the case scenario. Do we have any question? Okay, so I will assume everybody understands that. Every time you log into training, on your home page, so this is the facilitator's home page. I will log into what you can see. So can you still see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay. So every time you log in, this is what you should see on your page. On your schedule, you should see a list of trainings, the start date, the time, start time and end time, and a link to join live. On the right, you see your resources. When we upload manuals or any resources that you are supposed to use, you'll find it here. Under the notes, you are going to see the recordings from the sessions that we have had. So you will get the recorded session at least 24 hours or less than 24 hours after the training ends. And you'll find the links to all the recorded sessions there. So now we are going to go to the agenda of today. We will deal with case 1 and 3 today and tomorrow. And then we'll do case 2 and the rest going forward. Now, case 1 is a very confusing story. And I created a story that way so that we can understand how we will enter data into the system when things are not so clear. The whole objective and the mission is to enter clean and complete data as much as possible, and what to do if your data is not complete. So the first case is about Jeff. He's 40 years old. He is married to a female, and he's a father of 2 children. He has a male partner for casual sex. We have his house address given and his number of sexual partners. He identifies as heterosexual, but he is romantically attracted to more than one gender. He uses alcohol occasionally, and he smokes tobacco to curb his anxiety. So he recently had an anal unprotected sexual encounter with a new male friend he met at a party and shared needles, injecting drugs. Now, 4 months ago, he had gonorrhea and he was treated. He is allergic to cephalosporins and he presents at the health center today with lesions on the palm of his hand. Now we have the history of a hypothetical story that we will use to enter record into the system. Now, part of his history is that we have a history of platelet transfusion he had a long time ago, and his risk behaviors. And due to his risk behaviors, he was screened for both HIV, hepatitis B, HTLV, HIV, and syphilis. Now, we had RPR or VDRL reactive test with a titer of 1 in 64, but the conflict is that he is non-reactive to TPHA. He couldn't recall being treated for syphilis previously. He was told to ask his wife and partners to come in for screening and treatment. And Jeff does not want to tell his wife, but is aware that he is at risk. So we are going to use this story to create a client account for someone named Jeff. And we're going to follow his history and his story to enter his information and his risk behaviors. When you log into patient management and reporting system, you will get access to the case-based system. A lot of you have been part of the process from the first, second, third version, and this is the 4th version. And this is a lot different from what you have in country before now. For this system, one of the major changes is the elimination of antenatal permissions. So everybody who screens will screen a client regardless of their group. So no client is grouped into general population or antenatal population or key population. Every client is grouped based on risk behaviors. So we do not have a label of any client on the system. Secondly, if the biological sex of a client is either, if the biological sex of a client is female or intersex, or if the sex assigned at birth is female or intersex, the system automatically adds a pregnancy registration form to the file of the client for whenever it is needed in the future. If the biological sex is male, you won't find that on the files of the client. And we're going to see that as we go on. On the left end of the screen, when you expand the Pages menu, you will see General Population Counseling and Testing submenu. If you expand that submenu, you have a link to create new client account, request release of client's file, collect client information. We will be dealing with these 3 links today. When you click on Create New Client Account, the left side gives you information to guide you on how the testing code is generated automatically by the system. Now we have to remember that testing codes are not unique, and so we do not use testing codes as unique IDs. But even if you decide to want to use the testing code as a unique ID, the first time that testing code is used on the system, it will be used to create the account. If in the future somebody else has exactly the same testing code, the system will reject that as the unique ID. So the system enforces the uniqueness of each client's ID. So if you do decide to use the testing code, which is less secured and which can be the same for multiple people, the first person you save will go through, but the rest will not go through. So the date of first account creation. If you are entering a past record, you put the date of the record. If you're entering a current record, you are going to put in the date. The name of the reporter is automatically stamped as the name of the person who is logged in. The site that you are assigned when your account was created will be automatically stamped on the page or on the form. And then the contact of the reporter can be your work email or work phone or whatever address you want to use to be reached by your supervisor in the event that there is an error in data entry and they want you to correct it. The type of facility you have, let's say this is a testing and counseling site. Now, the first name of this hypothetical client is Jeff. We do not have a last name in the story. We do not have a middle name in the story, but we are going to make up a last name. So let me say my Jeff has a last name Brown. He's 40 years old, which means he was born in 1982. So I will say he was born on the first day of January in 1982. His biological sex is male, and his mother's maiden name was not given, so I will say this is unknown. Automatically, a testing code is generated, but we are not going to use the testing code as his unique ID. We are going to assume that he has a national ID number, and I'm going to use the national ID number. So I'll put 8890000, and the type of ID is national ID. So whatever the regulation is in the country, whatever you use as the unique ID, if it's something you make up, if it is the hospital registration number, if it's the ID number of a government issued ID, whatever it is that is used in country is what you fill in here. You can specify the type of ID you use. If it's not on the list, you click on Other, and then you create the account. Once the account is created, the form is cleared for you to create more accounts. Now, what the system does is, for security purpose, once an account is created, files are generated for the client. But these files will not be released until you request access to the file. And this, again, is for security reason. It logs whose file you went into and what you did with the file. It also allows the system lock all the files that are not released until it is requested by somebody. Once the file is released, it is going to be available until 11:59 p.m. So if you release the file at 11:58 p.m., at 11:59, the system is going to withdraw that file and ask you to request access again for the new day. So the day we want to access this record is today. It must be the current date. The unique ID of the account we just created is 8890000. We want to screen him for HIV, for tuberculosis, and for other STIs. And the file has been released. Once this is released, you collect client information. So I will repeat the order again. You come to General Population Counseling and Testing. You create client accounts for new clients. And if it is not a new client, you skip the create new client account and go straight to request release of client file. Once you request the release and it has been released, you will click on collect client information. You enter the unique ID now and collect information. Now this time, the system is going to give you all the forms that have been created for the client to start collecting and entering the client's data. Now, what is new to this version of the system is that it gives you a container above that flags the basic summary of the client. It also flags the behavioral summary. The basic summary is going to be populated once you fill in personal information, and the behavioral summary or event summary will be populated automatically once you fill in the risk behaviors. We have 3 buttons on that page. If based on the basic summary and the behavioral summary, you want to put the client on a risk reduction plan, you click on Start Risk Reduction, and it brings into the risk reduction form. We're going to look at this later down the training, but not today. Once that is done, you can review the last 3 recorded risk history if you want to compare the risk behaviors from previous visits, but it will only give you the last 3 recorded. Then if you want to look at the risk reduction plan history that you have had in the past for the clients, you can look at the history before you start a new risk reduction plan. Now, the first tab is the personal information tab. Again, you collect information based on what is allowed in your country. If you are not allowed to collect the names of the clients, you won't have put in the names during account creation. If you collect the names, you can put in the name. So whatever the regulation is, the form will allow you to fill in what is allowed to be collected. So we have the date of report, which is today. But what I want to do now is I want to backdate this record. I want to make sure this client, we are taking this record 3 months before now, and then we'll take the record for today. So 3 months before now would have been in October. So we're taking this record on 31st of October, 2021. That is the day Jeff visited. We don't have the information about where he was born. It's not part of the story. But we know that he lives in our current country. So I'm going to randomly select a country. We're going to assume now that we are in, let's use Antigua and Barbuda. And we want to get an address for him. The story gives us an address that he lives at 25 Halfway House, Grand Estate. And let's give a town. Let's say this town is in a town named Success Town. And then the health district is, we're going to put in any health district. Let's say St. Joseph, and the parish will be, I'll choose any parish. So it is during the configuration of the system that you populate the list of health districts and parishes that will appear on the drop-down menu. Now, let's say he has spent 20 years in this country now, and he identifies as a male. He said he is heterosexual. But now this is where the story comes. His risk behavior doesn't make him heterosexual, but that is his identity. And so we put heterosexual as his identity. He gave us his phone number. We'll put it here. And if we don't have it in the story, we can take it out. His marital status, the story tells us he is married. Ethnicity was not given, so I'm going to put unknown. His occupation was not talked about, so we'll put unknown. Highest level of education, we do not know. The number of sexual partners, 5 to 9. He has anal sex in the story and he has vaginal sex. We don't know about oral. He's not a female, so this is not applicable. Has the client's regular sexual partner been tested for HIV? We don't know. The client is alive and the cause of death is not applicable. And then he has left the country to reside somewhere else previously. And so this is how you collect the personal information of the client. Sorry, there's something that I didn't enter properly. I will have to enter it again. So once you fill in the form, the system is going to reject your information once you have a lot of special characters like this. It saved this, but when it's trying to save the address, because of this special character, the system is telling me a failure. So anytime you see a system failure, before you call your supervisor about a system failure, try to enter the data again, eliminating every special character from the entry. Is there any questions so far? Okay, but is it clear so far, or should I repeat anything before going further? Anybody, can you confirm if it's clear?
No question right now. For me, it's clear.
Okay. So for risk behaviors, the risk behavior form has new fields. Has new fields that you enter into the system. We have 4 new fields that ask for if the client has been incarcerated or has a history of incarceration, or if the client has been homeless, or if the client is a sex worker, or if the client has had sex with a transgender female with prior knowledge. So we were going to fill the risk factor forms, but before we do that, you'll find out that once you fill in this information, the first thing you want to check is if this information has been saved in a database. And if it is saved, you will find all the values that you have filled in populated in the fields where they were filled in. If it is not filled in properly, you won't see the information. Now remember that, recall that we got a system failure notification once we tried to save, which then means that somewhere along after we saved the parish, the other text we had selected or entered down the line was wrong. And so the system had rejected, or there was a security problem. So the system had rejected what we saved. And so that was not saved. So you have to always be careful when you save and make sure that you review your form to see that the information you entered was actually saved. So I'm not going to repeat filling this form again. We're going to do that later, but I'm just pointing this out for you to see that anytime you save a form, you should make sure you see the values you have saved written on the form. And if I go back to this page and give you a previously filled form, sorry. You will find out that once you successfully fill all the fields, you should find everything retained. And then when you go to your basic summary, you should see that the sexual orientation has been updated, the sex has been updated, the gender identity, the number of sexual partners, and the sexual partner status. Now, the behavioral summary is automatically populated here because I had previously filled in his risk behaviors. So we're going to go through the risk behaviors again using this file. We want to fill in this information for today. The first question is, has he had sex with males in the past 12 months? Has he had sex with females in the past 12 months? So the options are in the last 12 months, over 12 months ago, never, or unknown. So if the person has had sex with males, you want to be sure if it's in the last 12 months or over 12 months ago. Has he had sex with persons of known HIV positive status, which means that was he aware of the HIV status of a person and chose to go ahead to have sex with the person? If he says, yes, he has done that in the last 12 months, over 12 months ago, never, or unknown. Because the question does not give us an answer to that question. We are going to put unknown. Has he had sex with sex workers? We do not know based on the scenario. Has he exchanged sex for drugs or material gain? Or has he had transactional sex? We don't know. Has he shared needles while injecting non-prescription drugs? Yes, because the story said he shared needles injecting drugs at the party. And he's injecting drugs, he most likely will be using an illicit drug, and so it's still in the last 12 months. Has he had sex under the influence of drugs or alcohol? The story doesn't tell us that. Has he had sex with multiple partners? Yes, in the last 12 months. Does he have perinatal exposure to HIV? No. Has he received a transfusion of blood or blood products or clotting factors? Yes, the story said he received transfusion of platelets in his high school days, which is over 12 months ago. Has he had occupational exposure while working in a healthcare setting or a laboratory or providing safety or emergency services? We don't know about that from the scenario. Is he a victim of sexual assault? We do not know. Has he received a transplant? We do not know. At the time of this HIV testing, does he have a confirmed diagnosis of other STI? He said that 4 months ago he had gonorrhea and he was treated. And so we will say yes, because for now we do not know if he was completely treated, if he took the medications. We just know this based on what he said. Has he had a confirmed diagnosis of TB? No, we do not know about that. Has he had contact with confirmed TB? He doesn't know. Has he been previously diagnosed with HIV? And this question is for TB patients, so it's not applicable. His condom use was not talked about, so we don't know how much he uses condom, and so we say unknown. Has he been incarcerated or have a history of incarceration? We don't know. Has he ever been homeless? We don't know. Is he a sex worker? We don't know. And has he had sex with transgender female with prior knowledge? We do not know. And by the time you finish filling in the form, you click in save, and then you see an update successful message when it's successfully saved. When you look at the important behavioral or event summary, every event that is flagged for risk reduction and happened within the last 12 months will be written in red text. Every event that is flagged but happened over 12 months ago will be written in black text. So at this point, you have important summary without having to go to each of the tabs to decide what kind of risk reduction plan you want to start if you're doing a risk reduction. And we're going to look at risk reduction in the coming weeks, not today. But this is how the system generates the summaries based on the information you collect. Now we have one last information to save. And this information is to save information about the comorbidities of the client. So we want to look at the pre-existing condition, and this is going to be used mainly if the client ends up being positive or if the client is going to be on pre or post-exposure prophylaxis. So it asks if the client is diabetic, has lymphoma, renal disease, chronic lung disease, or high blood pressure. I have filled in unknown for each of these fields. It also asks you to specify any other problem or any other pre-existing condition that the client might have, and you fill it in here. Now, he said he takes alcohol occasionally based on the scenario. So alcoholism is no, malnutrition is unknown, and his reason for test is that he thought he might be exposed. That is why he came in for testing. Now, according to the story, he was previously tested for HIV. He was previously diagnosed with other STIs that is not HIV. And we clicked on yes, and then saved. Once you save this information, the next thing you will want to do is to go on the HIV screening tab. Should we go on? Is there any question about the process so far? Should I repeat it before going on?
I just want to find out, I just want to get it clear. Once you are on this page, do you do all these, the tabbing, like, well, I know you have to do the personal information, but do you have to do all the others, or you do the others depending on what information you generate from before?
Okay, so the most important forms here are the risk behavior forms. It's something you must, or you have to collect for complete data. If not, the data will be almost useless because most of the indicators revolve around risk behaviors and personal information. For the comorbid information, you can choose to collect this or let this information be collected if the person is going to be on pre or post exposure prophylaxis or the person is positive. But collecting this information, personal and comorbid information, are one-time collection. For subsequent visits, you just look through what is there and update if anything changes. It's not an information you collect all the time, every time the client visits. So once you have it on the system, if, for instance, this client comes back and the number of sexual partners is no longer 5 to 9, but 2 to 4, you can update just that field, put in the date, and you save. But the risk behavior, you want to collect it every time the client comes in. The HIV screenings, TB screenings, and syphilis screenings, we are going to fill them based on what screenings you are going to do. And I'll assume HIV and syphilis will be the major screenings that will be going on. And then you can do TB screenings or other screenings if you are trying to request for any other screening outside of what the facility offers.
Thank you.
Okay. So for HIV screenings, he was screened for HIV. And there are these reporting indicators that want to disaggregate HIV testing by test modalities. Now, the training workshops we had last week, we already discussed the test modalities. And I think based on the naming convention or the namings that the program manager will decide on and configure the system with, you will see a drop-down list of modalities. If you are reporting a self-test or giving out self-test kits, you are going to put in self-test. If this is a confirmatory test, it's confirmatory test. If it is a rapid test for recent infection, which is what you use most of the time, or if it is a community-based testing and you are doing an outreach or something that is outside of a facility. So you do either community-based testing, index, or mobile. Index means that it's somebody just walks in voluntarily to get tested. The person is not positive before coming in. It's like an index client. The person becomes positive. The person becomes an index to a lot of other people who are going to be tested, but not as index. So it's still going to be under mobile too, because it's community-based, not in a facility, and you are doing a test drive in a school or in a public place, or you have a mobile camp that you put out for people to get tested. If you are doing a community-based testing, or you have a dedicated VCT facility, you are going to put that. If you have that one, NGO. So these namings were trial namings we did, and the program manager should communicate with the testers on the test modalities that they have defined, and the definition that you will get in the drop-down menu is going to be based on what your program manager enters as test modalities. So we are testing this person has VCT in, you choose health facility or NGO. The date of test is today. The type of test is, let's repeat, a rapid test. Either we are doing serial or parallel testing. So let's assume we are doing both. And then, according to the case scenario, only syphilis was positive. But I'm going to change the story now to make HIV reactive so that we can follow through to referring the clients into care and management. But when it is time for you to do your hands-on practice, which will be tomorrow, you will follow the story exactly. And we want to use the story for validation to see how you collect the record, if you collect it correctly, and see what will be the common problem and try to rectify it. So we'll say both of the test is reactive.
One question before you go forward, Mildred.
Yeah.
Like how you put in the unit goal and determine. Remember, the person now come to me, like in my scenario, we only do the unit goal if the determine is positive. So seeing whether you're now gonna start do the test, do you put in both or do you put in one?
So once you take the test, right? Either you are filling this in or you want to wait for the result and then fill it in. If you are going to be doing serial testing, right? You can put in one, save it. If you have need for the second one, you can now do the second one and save it. If you are doing parallel, you're doing both at the same time, you are putting both. So let's assume we are doing it according to how you do it in your center. So at this point now, this is not, let me refresh this page and fill it all over again. So at this point now, you are going to do a serial test, right? And I'm going to be doing rapid test. I'm only going to do determine. And the determine result here is reactive. And I'll put in the date. So you can enter them individually or save time and enter both of them. Once this is entered, the next thing you will see is that on the right side, you will find that test you just recorded here. It is not going to display the type of test kit you use, it just displays the results, the site of the record, the test modality you use, and the date recorded. If you want to do the second test now using Unicode, you can fill it in. So you see, it's faster to just fill in both test kits. If you are going to do the first one is negative, and then you just fill it in before the client leaves, and you don't need to do it twice. But if for any reason you are doing it 2 times, so I'll ask you now, are you using the second test as a confirmatory test, or you do it again before you send them for an ELISA-based test?
You do it before you send them for a confirmatory test.
Okay, so this again is also a rapid test for recent infection. We are going to use Unicode now, and then this is also reactive. So in the event where one is reactive and one is non-reactive, you'll still send them for a confirmatory test, right?
True.
Okay. So let's assume that this is non-reactive. And we'll put in the date, today's date. Now on the right side of the screen, you will see all of the HIV test history and rapid test. That includes everything you have added. Once you are done, this is non-reactive. When you have a non-reactive results like that, it keeps the result blank because you have the first one reactive, the second non-reactive, so it's indeterminate, right? And so it leaves it blank for you because the system cannot decide what exactly this result is. At this point, you know that one of the test kits is positive or reactive, and you want to send for confirmatory test. You are going to select your test modality as confirmatory, and then you select the type of test you're sending them for. You skip the test kit portion because this does not apply to the ELISA test. And then let's assume we have the result returned. If the result is not returned, awaiting result. If we already have the results, we put positive or negative. So I'm going ahead to decide that the result has returned, it is positive, and the result date is this. Now, when you fill in the test result date, always make sure that the test result date is the date the sample was collected and not the date that the test result was released. And so this has been saved. So now on the right side, you will see on that form that he has done a confirmatory test that is positive. So on this form on the right that gives you the history, you'll find the most recent first, and goes down like that. So the order is the most recent is going to be number 1, so that it makes it easy for you to search through all of the screening history that the client has. Do we have any question or clarification?
No question.
Okay, so now it is 3 minutes past 10. We are going to have a 10-minute break, then come back and look at the other screenings that we will do for these clients. The reason
Excuse me, let me ask a question, please.
Okay.
I heard you said that tomorrow we are going to do practice, right?
Yes.
I thought this training was 1 day.
This particular training is 2 days. Today?
Because I saw on my schedule 31st or February the 1st. So I chose today because I will not be available tomorrow.
Okay, so on the schedule we have 31st or 1st. And then we have 2 sessions, morning 9 to 12, and we have 1 to 4. But everybody signed up for 9 to 12. So which makes, so we have the first session 9 to 12, and then the repeat 9 to 4, right? And then the second session, 1 to 4. And because nobody signed up for second session of 1 to 4, we have decided to do all of the first session 9 to 12 and all of the second session 9 to 12, since everybody prefers the morning than the afternoon. And that is why we chose the hands-on. But if you are available today and you want to do the hands-on this afternoon, I'm available from 1 to 4 to guide you through it. For anybody who will not be available today and has all of today booked for this.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we'll go on 10 minutes break. We'll come back at 10:14. Okay, is everyone back?
I am. And bye, no.
All right. So we are going to.
I am here. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I don't know if there are program managers on the call. Can you assist your participants to log in with the same directions I sent in the email? We have like half of today's participants on calling, and I can't attend to them now because I had said that account activation problem should be reported before 9 a.m. And once we start, I won't be able to attend to that. So the participants that can't attend today, we can do a repeat for them tomorrow morning. And then after today's session, we'll try to get their account activated. Is that okay?
Milton, their volume has dropped significantly. I don't know if anybody else has this problem.
Okay, let me see. Can you hear me better?
No, it's really low. My volume is up.
Okay, so hold on, let me change my mic. Okay. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Is it better or still low?
It's a little louder, not. I'm going to put on a headset to see if I can hear you louder.
Does anyone else have the problem? So I'll be sure if it's my mic.
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Okay, so it's not coming from me.
No, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Okay. So we will continue. I have to share my screen back. So can you see my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I don't know if there are program managers on the call. For your participants, if they have received an activation email, they should click on the link to the email. What everyone is doing wrong and having problems with activation is trying to log in through the wrong site. For them to get into this training, they have to log into training. If they're trying to reset their password, they have to reset from the training login form. And that's for all the calls I have made this morning and received, that has been the common error. So you might want to tell the participants, because I can't attend to them, and there are lots of them this morning, that's how to get into the training. Oops. So once it is time for us to have a practical session, then we are going to log into patient management and reporting system. For most of us on this call, that account has not been created. The account you have is to log into training. If you are not the program manager, you have one of your colleagues who have difficulties logging in, you might want to help them log in or give them your ID to log in to this system to join today's session in case if they did not plan to attend tomorrow. Because right now, there are a lot of them who are having the same problem. And then a lot of other people had wrong emails submitted, and only past 9 that I was receiving emails for the correct email address, and we're already in the training. So anybody who can help out with anyone who you know who cannot get on, you can direct them to make sure they use login to training if they receive the activation email and if they have activated their account. If they don't have an activation email in their inbox, they should check their spam. And if they still have problems, you can email me their correct email address so that we can update their account for subsequent sessions. So I will log back in and share my screen.
Mildred.
Yeah?
Yeah, I logged in from my phone successfully, but the same screen that I went through on the phone, and I'm logging into training on the home screen on the computer. For some reason, I'm not getting through on the computer.
So are you sure on the phone you didn't use any special characters, uppercase, lowercase? That's
No. Because the one thing I try not to do is change and have different passwords. So my email is set, the password is set. I'm putting the same password on the computer, and I'm not getting through.
okay. Did you click on log into training, and the form the form you have is exactly a form that has training and certification written on it?
Yes, it has training and certification, the same screen that I had from the phone while I was doing it with you this morning. And
Okay.
when I click login, it just says wrong details. on the computer, but if I do it on the phone, it goes through.
So that will have to be your system problem. Once it's going through on one device, it means it's correct. It has to do with something on the system. Maybe a particular key is typing wrongly, or a particular character is not, if you have a different keyboard, UK, US, a particular character might be interpreted differently. So after the workshop, we can troubleshoot that to know why, but it's not a problem coming from the system.
Okay.
And then if you continue to have problems, yeah.
We were having the problem earlier on, so I don't know if she click on the little icon up there in the left corner. And when we click on that, then we were able to get in. So I don't, yes, that, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
I did that. That's where I'm logging in from, the little profile icon, and then log into training.
And then click home.
Yeah.
So one other problem you might have is there are some special characters that the system will show out. If you are using it on your laptop might be, so it depends on the version of your laptop and your keyboard settings, the locale of your keyboard. Your special characters might be different, or identified differently. And during the encryption, it will be converted to something different, and then it will not recognize your password. When you have such problem, you click here to reset your password, enter the email address. This time, enter password with plain English text without special characters. Maybe something on your system is converting special characters to something different. And then if you use plain English text and you still have the problem, then we'll see whether we want to delete your account and recreate to see where the problem is coming from.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to log in back for the purpose of people who have just joined. We are going to review what we have done again, and then we are going to go forward. So on the home page, once you log in, if you are assigned a pharmacy permission, the system recognizes you as a pharmacist. It gives you an additional screen to change your pharmacy. If you were dispensing from a different pharmacy yesterday and today you were assigned to a new pharmacy, you always want to update your pharmacy on the system to make sure you're not dispensing from the stock of the wrong pharmacy. For other users who are not pharmacists, you won't find this blue container on your page. You will just see the welcome page with the getting started information like this. On the left of the page, you have a general population counseling and testing, and that is what we are dealing with today. You expand the pages menu, and based on the permissions you were assigned when your account was created, you will find different links to different functionalities. The functionality of focus for today is general population counseling and testing, and then referrals. For the general population counseling and testing, we are going to create new client accounts. We started that at the beginning, and I'm going to repeat that again before we go forward so that we can have the people who have just joined us will understand what we've been doing. When you click on create new client account, you are creating an account for a new client who has not been registered on the system. For subsequent clients, you skip this step and start from the request release of client file. So we are going to create new client accounts. We have a story on that we are working with. We have a client named Jeff who is 40 years old, who is married, who identifies as heterosexual but romantically attracted to more than one gender. He occasionally uses alcohol, and he injects drugs. And shares needles. He has had history of other STIs, and he's presenting today with symptoms of syphilis, and we are going to do all of his screenings. and see how the system collects this record. There are some information that are missing. We are going to fill in some information and alter the story as we go through. And when you are doing your hands-on, you will want to use exactly the same story because we use the data you enter to validate if you're entering the data correctly, if it's entered wrongly, and so that we can know where the common area of problem is to maybe improve the user friendliness or do something about it. Today's date is 31st of January. I want to backdate this screening so that we will do a repeat screening for today. I will start this test. I will assume that I screened this person on the 8th day of October in 2021. The name of the reporter is going to be the name of the person logged in. The system generates that. The site of the reporter is going to be the site that you are assigned to when your account was created or when your supervisor updates your testing site. So anytime you see site of reporter and it's not your current site, you might want to call the program manager to update your site if you have been changed or rotated. The system is going to count this account creation, this screening for the site that you are assigned at the time you did the screening or entered the record. If you are helping a different site enter a record, make sure that your site assigned is the site whose record you are entering into the system. Okay. So we are on the part where we are starting afresh. Someone asked in the chat, so I'm starting all over so that we can all get it. You create a client account for a new client. For subsequent clients, you only retrieve the file without creating an account. We are starting afresh, and so we are creating an account for a client whose name is Jeff. We have a case scenario story that I had emailed on Friday. I don't know if everyone received it, but I have it on my screen, and I'm going to display it again when we continue. The facility type is let's say we are at the testing and counseling site. The first name of this client is Jeff. So when you are doing your hands-on session, we want to assume a last name, and you can put the last name, write it down somewhere for the last name you used. I'm going to give Jeff a last name, David. His date of birth, he's 40 years old. It means he was born in 1982. So we'll put his year of birth as 1982. You can assume any day and month of birth, or leave it blank and put the year of birth. His sex means his biological sex, not his gender identity. So even if he's a transgender female right now, his biological sex is male. The sex you are going to fill in here is the biological sex. When you get to the other form, personal information, then you put in his gender identity. His mother's maiden name, I will assume that his mother's maiden name is, let's say, Solomon. You can put unknown since the story doesn't give us a mother's maiden name. But I'm filling this in so that we can see different events and how the data will be collected. The unique ID now is going to be either the hospital registration number, the ID number of an ID card, something you made up, but something unique to the client. Even if it is not unique to the client, the system is going to enforce uniqueness. So you want to make sure that the system is not making you fill this form twice and put in a unique ID that you know the chances of another person using the same thing is very low. So we're going to make up something now. We'll say his unique ID is 991234567. And the type of ID we use, we'll assume that this is his national ID card number. You can use any ID and select the type from the list of types or other if the type is not on the list. And then you create account. We just created a new client account. Once this account is successfully created, it is going to clear the form for you to create more new accounts. So if you have somebody whose job is to create accounts of clients coming in, maybe on a very busy day or on an outreach, before the person moves to a tester, you just create, the unique ID, or the person has an ID card, and pass it on to the next person who is going to do the testing to continue, so that one person is not burdened with creating the account and then continue. But the person who is going to collect further information will have to retrieve client's file. The retrieve of client's file is only going to be to the logged in user. So if we have 10 people on one testing site and one person retrieves client's file, it will be available to that one person. The other 9 has to go through the same process. This is for two purposes: one, for security reason, to log all of the files that a user access, and secondly, the system logs every file that is on the system until you request access. It releases and retrieves at midnight at the end of the day. So we are going to request access. The date of access should be the current day, so that the system will see that the date of access you asked for is equal to the current date. And if it's not equal, it is not going to be released. So we'll do 991-234-567. The type of screening we want to do is HIV, tuberculosis, and syphilis. And then we submit. Once you get a success message, you click on OK. It then means you now go to collect information. So the order is create new client account, request release of client's file, and collect client information. If it is a subsequent client that has an account on the system already, or not a new client, you start with request release of client's file and collect information. You will skip create new client account for subsequent visits. Now it's time to collect information, and we're going to enter the unique ID. And it will give us all of the file or all the forms generated for these clients. Now on this form, you have a basic summary that will be populated when you fill in the personal information. We have a behavioral summary that will be populated when you collect the behavioral information. You have 3 buttons: one to take you to a risk reduction form where you collect data or fill in information about the risk reduction plan you are placing the client on or you are using for the client. And then you have get the last 3 recorded risk history. And when you click on this, if it's a client that has been on the system for long and has visited more than 3 times, you will find the last 3 recorded risk behavior that you have collected on the system or saved. And if you want to look at the previous risk reduction plan history, you want to see if the client is on a risk reduction plan and what the plan is, you can go to the history. We're not going to look at this today, but I'm just showing you what these buttons are used for. Now we have the personal information form. Once you are collecting information on the system, this system has forms to collect all sorts of information. And then for some countries, some of this information are information that are against your regulation to collect. So if an information is an information that you are not supposed to collect in your country, please do not collect the information. But the information that you need for reporting that you must fill at every visit is the risk behaviors, the screening information. These are the most compulsory information. Once a client is in care, you can update the personal information if you are allowed to collect this information at this time. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I am going to assume that there is no regulation against collecting names of clients, and I'm going to collect the names and fill in the information. But you will do as it is done in your country when you use the live system. So for the personal information, we are going to enter the date of report. If you're entering a past record, which I'm doing now, I'm going to put in the date of a past record, which is 8th of October 2021. The name we entered when we created this account is populated on the form. If you have other types of ID card that the client uses and the client wants to register on the system so that in the event of a security leak, you want to switch the unique ID, you can put in the type of ID. So if the client misses one ID, you can verify on the system that the next ID the client brings is on the system, and that will be the fastest verification to change the unique ID of the client to a new ID that is already registered. So for up to 3 extra IDs the client has, if you are using an ID card number, you can put it in. If you are not using an ID card number and you're using things like hospital registration number or insurance number, anything it is that you use in your country to unique IDs, and you have more than one of those IDs, you can enter the 3 other IDs so that in the future, if an ID is missing or forgotten, you can retrieve the ID and change it to one of the IDs on the list. Now, the date of birth of the client is filled in automatically from when the account was created. We are to select a country of birth. The story does not tell us about a country of birth. So, but I'm going to assume that this client was born in Anguilla, and the client currently lives in, let's use A, Antigua and Barbuda. The address was given in the story, and it says he lives at 25 Halfway Grand Estate Rivertown Parkland. And I'll put this as the town. And the health district or wellness center will be populated based on the health district that you have populated when you configured your system. The parish is going to be populated by the parishes you put in the system when you configured your system. The length of time in the country of screening, he has stayed in this country for 20 years, let's say. His biological sex is male, and he identifies as a male. He said he's heterosexual. We're ignoring his risk behaviors or his behaviors. He identifies as heterosexual, even though his risk behavior does not place him in the heterosexual category. So the telephone number, if you have it, if you're supposed to collect that kind of information, you put it in. If not, you can leave it blank. The compulsory field are starred here. The marital status, the story tells us that he is married and his ethnicity was not given. But on this system, ethnicity is compulsory, so it will not allow you fill in an unknown ethnicity, because one of the major reporting indicators is disaggregation of testing and positivity by ethnicity. And so you will have to fill in an ethnicity. We are going to assume that he is, let's say, Black, and his occupation is, we don't know his occupation. We don't know his highest level of education. The story tells us he has 5 to 9 sexual partners. He has vaginal and anal sex. And also, he is not a female, so this is not applicable. His regular sexual partner, he doesn't know if they have been tested. He's alive, his cause of death is not applicable, and he has lived in another country. And then we'll save this. So we get an updated message. Once you fill in the personal information, the basic summary will be populated with key information that the caregiver or the provider is going to use to decide if the client needs a risk reduction plan or what type of risk reduction plan. And because here we can see that he has 5 to 9 sexual partners, you might want to start a kind of plan or ask for that question based on how you do your risk reduction plan within country. The next tab that is compulsory that you fill at every visit is the risk behaviors. A lot of the key reporting indicators revolves around this information. When you collect this information once, the first time, the second time you just read through and verify. If the client comes back 3 months down the line, you want to look through the risk behaviors and find out if anything changes, you update just that field alone. So the most of the work will be done the first time, and subsequent times it will be updates of whatever has changed. So this record is still for 8th of October 2011. And he has had sex with males in the last 12 months, according to the story. He has had sex with females in the last 12 months, according to the story. The story does not tell us if he has had sex with persons of non-HIV positive status. The story does not tell us if he has had sex with sex workers. The story doesn't tell us if he has exchanged sex for money, drugs, or material gain. The story tells us that he injected drug and most likely used an illicit drug, and all in the last 12 months. The story does not tell us if he had sex under the influence of drugs or alcohol, but it tells us that he has had sex with multiple partners in the last 12 months. He has not had perinatal exposure to HIV. He has received a transfusion of blood products in the last 12 months. He had a platelet transfusion, according to the story. And the story doesn't tell us if he had occupational exposure to, based on his work. The story doesn't also tell us if he was a victim of sexual assault. The story doesn't tell us if he has received a transplant. So once you have a client in real life that doesn't want to reveal certain information, your option is to put unknown. If you are filling in the personal information, you get to ethnicity and they are not telling you, it's very easy to guess an ethnicity or something closer to it, but ethnicity is a field that is compulsory and will not be saved on unknown. So confirmed diagnosis of STI at the time of HIV testing. The story tells us that in that October he had gonorrhea, so we'll say yes. He doesn't have TB, or the story doesn't talk about TB. The story doesn't tell us if he has had contact with a confirmed TB case. The story doesn't tell us that he's a TB patient. And the story is not clear about his condom use. We only know that he had unprotected anal sex prior to this visit. And so we are not sure about his condom use. But the options will be if he always uses a condom, if he usually uses a condom. So always is 100% of the time. Usually is 80% of the time, but less than 100%. Sometimes is when he decides when he feels like using a condom. So like more than 40% of the time, but less than 80%. Occasionally is when he uses condom on under special circumstance. For instance, if he's having a new sexual partner, he uses condom. If he has a regular sexual partner, maybe he doesn't use condom. So those are like occasional use. And if he rarely is, he hardly ever uses condom, and never, he most likely doesn't even know what a condom looks like. And then you select what the option is. You want to find out if he has been incarcerated in the past, or you are doing this screening for prisoners. If it's in the last 12 months, if the person is currently in prison, it's still in the last 12 months. If the person was in prison over a year ago, so it's over 12 months ago. So we are going to say he was incarcerated in the last 12 months. The story doesn't tell us this, but I'm putting this twist on this. Has the client ever been homeless? Let's assume that he was homeless over 12 months ago, and he's not a sex worker, and he has not had any sex with a transgender female with knowledge. So we'll say never. And then I will click on save. Once it's successfully saved, you see an updated successful message. Once the behavioral information or the risk behaviors is filled in, you will see that the behavioral summary is populated. Every risk behavior that happened in the last 12 months will be written in red text. Every risk behavior that is over 12 months ago is going to be in black text. So once you want to go on a risk reduction plan, this guides you to see important summary without having to scroll through all the forms, and it gives you enough information to decide what you want to start on, or to decide if you want to go through or scan through the forms or look at past histories of the clients. So we have the third set of information, which is collecting comorbid information of the clients if the client has pre-existing conditions. Now, while this is not compulsory for all the clients, it is important to fill this for when the client is positive, the record is there. If it is not filled at the testing site, during registration or initial clinical evaluation, this information will be collected. So you can decide for the purpose of time to fill this or not to fill this up when you meet a new client. But the most important information are the risk behaviors, the personal information. You fill in as much as is allowed in your country. If personal information are not allowed, you put unknown into the fields that are compulsory so that you can move on. With the risk behaviors, you want to get as much information as you can, unknown on the fields that you do not have information on or the client doesn't want to talk about, and they're not applicable. For instance, if you have a client who is 3 years old, 4 years old, had sex with males will be not applicable. So instead of unknown in those kind of situations, not applicable is going to be the choice that you will select for the child client that is over 2 years but less than the age where you can ask those questions. Then the comorbid information, we're going to fill it. Like I said, it's not compulsory during testing on your live site to fill this in. If you have enough time, it's good to collect all information. If you don't have enough time, I'm showing you the forms you can skip for only when the client is positive. So I'll put in the date. Sorry, I'm still backdating this to be October. So every time you fill in past records, you have to put in the date of the past record. So if, for instance, the power is down or internet is down for the week or for last week, and you want to put in the records for that last week, it has to be the date of last week. So he said he's not diabetic, or we don't know about that. We don't know about lymphoma, renal disease. The story doesn't tell us. Chronic lung disease, high blood pressure, we don't know also. In the situation or in the event where you are collecting this information at an A&E, maybe somebody was rushed in and you are filling this thing from an A&E, you might have a blood pressure monitor, you might have taken a blood pressure or something, and then you have some answers to put in here. You might either put it there and update it later based on what you currently have, or you can just leave it blank, and when you are able to update the records properly, you will do it. Or when the client, or if the client becomes positive, then all of this information becomes very important for the system. The story doesn't tell us, the story tells us that he takes alcohol occasionally. So we'll assume he's not an alcoholic. We don't know if he's malnourished. And we know that the reason for test is because he has symptoms, not a clinical symptom of HIV. He just feels he's exposed and he's thought to be at risk. Has he been previously tested for HIV? He doesn't know. Has he been previously diagnosed with HIV? No. Previously diagnosed with STI other than HIV? We'll say yes. And the date he was diagnosed is, we'll say it's the same October. And he was diagnosed to put the name of the place, and he was diagnosed with gonorrhea. And he has never been diagnosed for TB, I will say no. And I will save this one. So all of the information collection for the clients exists in the first 3 forms. We start collecting screening information. Is there any question from anyone before we go on?
Mildred, I was just wondering, there's a question that asks if the client is dead. I think on the first page. If you're dead, you can't answer questions. Is it the client or the client partner?
So if the client is dead, and the reason why this is on this form is Sometimes this thing is filled at an A&E, right? And the person is already brought in and pronounced dead, and you're updating or filling this record, and you fill in all of this information, but you're filling in dead. At the time you're filling, the client is already pronounced dead. So in the event where somebody is brought into A&E, the person's blood was drawn, before the result returned, the person has died, and you're updating the results also. You're going to put in dead here, and if the cause of death is HIV related or it is an HIV death, you fill it in. But if the client is sitting in front of you, you don't need to ask this question. You just put alive and not applicable for cause of death.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we go to the HIV screening tabs. Now, in last week's trainings, we discussed the test modalities that are part of the new reporting indicators. And the test modalities you find on your form is going to depend on what your supervisor or the program manager is going to fill in the list of test modalities. Now, UNH have a standard naming they use for their test modalities. I had defined the ones that will likely use the most up here, but because it can be confusing, countries can define their test modalities according to what they will understand, but will mean the same thing when it is time for reporting. So for instance, if you have HTX index, it simply means an index test or from a partner notification service. And it's somebody who is not positive, has not been positive, comes in for testing. It's an index client, right? When the client is now reactive or positive, and you are testing the partners, either sexual partner, injection drug partner, children, or siblings, those ones are no longer indexed. We are now testing them as HCS-TST. If you're testing from a mobile facility like an outreach or somewhere outside of a health facility, you select the mobile. If it's in a hospital facility version. Then if you are doing a confirmatory test, HTS recent. So this is their naming convention that can be a little confusing. And so because of that, you will name them by yourself. And during last week's training, we tried a list of different names. We are going to do a rapid test for recent infection. You can use rapid test for recent infection as the type, which is going to be calculated as part of HTS-TST later on, or you can select if it's a community drive, like a mobile test or a facility-based test if it's from an NGO. Try to create your list of modalities to cover every scenario, or you can refer to the UNH guide for reporting indicators to see all of the kind of testing indicators they have and how you want to name your modalities to mean what will aid ease of data collection or reporting. So the test modality we're going to use here is we're going to put, let's say, PITC inpatient. So it's going to be a provider-initiated testing and counseling. But this is not provider-initiated according to the story. He walks in himself because he thought he was exposed. And so we can say this is a voluntary counseling and testing at the health facility. So you have to look at the definitions and define these things based on how your users will understand them. And then the type of test now we are going to do is a rapid test. So depending on how you do your rapid test, serial, parallel, you enter each one at a time, or you want to wait when you're done, you enter both of the test kits, whichever one is easier for you. So we'll do the test kit, we'll use determine, and we're doing serial, right? And let's say determine is reactive. The story doesn't tell us he's HIV reactive, or let's decide that this is non-reactive in October. And we'll put in the date on the 8th day of October. So the rule is that the test result date is always the date the sample was collected, not the date the test result was released. So we'll save this, and It is non-reactive. There is no need to use another test kit or send him for a confirmatory test. So we have screened him for the first time he came in after he has gonorrhea. We want to screen him now for subsequent visits. And let's assume that now we are in 2022. This is no longer October 2021. You are coming into the system fresh for the first time in 2022. And this client shows up and he has an account on the system. The first place you go to is on the left end of your screen after you log in. Go to General Population Counseling and Testing. You click on Request Release of Client File for subsequent visits. You fill in this form and click on Submit. And then you move on to the Collect Information form. And then you enter the unique ID that the client used previously. So make sure you are not creating duplicate accounts for clients. And the reason is, no matter where within the country the client has screened. So let's say an island like Antigua and Barbuda, the client screened at Barbuda, use the same unique ID to retrieve the past form. The system is going to tag the current session for your site, even if the client is not a client of your site, but maybe happens to be in Antigua at this point and is screening from Antigua. We want to make sure he's screening from Antigua. The record is still going to show that he's a client of Barbuda because the account was created there. But you have access to all of the files as long as you have the unique ID of the clients. Now, clients are the only ones with their unique IDs, so they will have to give you their unique ID for you to pull out their record. There is no part on the system where users can download unique IDs of clients or identify or pull out records based on names of clients. So except if you copy down the unique ID when you use it once, there is no way that you will be able to access a file of a client after the client leaves your office once you log out. Now we are back now in January, and this is 31st of January. We asked him to return back after 3 months for screening based on his risk behavior. And today, he is coming in with symptoms that look like symptoms of syphilis. And so we are going to screen him for HIV again today. So this time we are going to be doing the same rapid test for recent infection, or we're going to use VCT Health Facility. As a suggestion, I think we should not use this rapid test for recent infection in the list of modalities because it overlaps and it's supposed to be part of any of this testing. Yes, all of these tests are rapid tests for recent infection. So this is just going to give you more questions than answer. Yeah, it's a rapid test for recent infection, but where was it done? Is it in an emergency room? Is it provider initiated? Is it from an NGO? So you want to select the correct one and just avoid the use of this if you have it on your job domain. Then the type of test we have now is a rapid test. We're going to do determine again. And this time, let's say we have it reactive. And today's date is 31st of January, 2022. On the right side of the same page, you will see all of the screening history of the client. So you will know that he was screened on the 8th of October, 2021. He was non-reactive, there's no result. He was screened today and he is reactive. If you use 2 or you want to repeat the test again with a different test kit, we are going to use the second test kit now. And this is still rapid. And we're going to use Unigold. When I say this is reactive also. And today's date is the 31st day of January, 2022. Now you have 2 of the test kits reactive. You want to send the client for confirmatory testing. So it's either you enter it on the system here to let anybody who sees the client in the future know that there was a confirmatory test that was requested. And we're going to do ELISA-based test. We're not using a test kit, and so this is going to be blank. We are awaiting results, and the date is 31st. So when the result returns, you're going to enter the result. Now, in the previous version, you update, but this time, you're not updating, you're going to enter all over again. Because the reason we changed the whole structure is that there was a lot of data entry errors based on updates. Dates were not accurate. They were put in wrongly. And so we want to make sure that every step is intentional and it's not as a result of rushing or eliminate a lot of mistakes in data entry. So this result is awaiting. This screening history will always give you a history of everything about testing that is entered on the system. Anytime you see a blank place, it means that it either is a rapid test that is non-reactive or it is an ELISA-based test that is awaiting results. If the result returns or the client comes back 2 days, 3 days later, and you want to do the post-test counseling with the result, this time you're going to enter the date again. Every time you do an activity on the system, you have to enter the date. This time is HIV ELISA result, and it has returned positive. And we'll put in the date. So now, this client is positive. The case scenario tells us that he was also screened for hepatitis B, for HCLV, and for syphilis. It gives us a syphilis result with a titer value of 1:64 and a non-reactive TPHA. And the reason I put the story to be non-reactive is for us to see how we will enter a record when we are going to repeat a test. So now we have a new screening we want to do, which is syphilis. We want to assume, or according to the case scenario, the test he did was either an RPR or VDRL. So let's choose either of them. His titer value was given, and the result is reactive. We have this on the 31st day of July, 2022. You save this. Now, on the same day, you receive his TPHA result or TPPA, whichever is done in your country, or FTA, whichever you use, and you have the result to be non-reactive. So there's something conflicting about the results, right? You might want to repeat the test. So this result returned from the lab. You want to repeat the test to be sure you're confirming if this person has syphilis. So now my assumption now in this case is that he has syphilis. The TPPA of non-reactive might have been a wrong result. So we want the client to go back and repeat the same test. So we're sending this client back to go and repeat the test for syphilis and confirm the syphilis. So this is what happens when you enter in a record and you feel the need to repeat a particular screening. You enter in the screening the first time and what the result was, and you enter in the new screening. So we assume that we are doing the test where we are, and you're sending this person to go back to confirm the screening that was done. And this time, the TPHA is reactive and the date is 31st. So because we have confirmed this, and we want to believe that this last result is the confirmatory result and it is the correct result, you have all of the record of results entered on the system with the most recent first. So when you look at this, the screening history, syphilis screening history of this client, you will realize that the first thing you see on the screen is the last recorded event or last recorded result for the client. Everything below it are things that happened before the first one. So it's the last recorded first before the first recorded last. So when you want to read the history, just note that number one is the last thing recorded for the client. And if it is a positive or a reactive, it might just be the last conclusion that was held on the client. If you look at the history and you have any confusion and you want to request a new screening to clarify this, or if you're the supervisor and you go to your supervisor's page and you see the name of the person who recorded this and you want to clarify things, you can do that or request a new screening, depending on what the conflict is or what you really need to clarify. So we are assuming that this person is reactive or has been confirmed positive for HIV, has syphilis. The person is doing other screening also. And we are screening for. So for other screening, you go to other screenings tab. You are screening for whatever it is. We have the list of different screenings. Again, this list of screening is populated by the supervisor or program manager. Whatever you don't find on the list that you are requesting, you can ask the program manager to put that on the list of the drop-down menu, or whoever the supervisor or the IT admin is. But so I have a list of different screenings that are here. We want to record a HCLV test. And let's say this return negative. And you save that. You also want to record the screening for Hep B that was done. And we also have that as negative. So let's say this is hepatitis B surface antigen. So, but I'll click on Hep B because that is the only thing here. When you are putting in the list of your screenings, you try to put in, collect the list, maybe an exhaustive list of tests from the lab, and use that to create your screening list so that the users will find a list of all the tests that are run within the country. And then the test result for the Hep B is negative. And then we'll click 31st of January, 2022. So based on the case scenario, we have entered everything we need to enter. Now this client needs to have two things. During the risk reduction or the partner notification service, right? You might want to talk to the client about the sexual partners and the injection drug partners. If the client wants to disclose by himself, wants to give the opportunity. If not, you come to contact listing. If the client wants you to be the one to contact these sexual partners or injection drug partners, to contact them to come in for testing. Now we're going to assume, or the story says that Jeff does not want to tell his wife. So let's assume that he gave us the list of all of his partners, his sexual partners and his injection drug partners. And so we're going to list them here. So once you have a client giving you for contact tracing, depending on how you do it within the country, if you allow the clients to go and talk to the partners themselves, or you want them to give a contact for contact tracing, you fill in the information for contact tracing here. So every information we collect for contact tracing, when we get to the training for partner notification service, we are going to retrieve this information and see how we record information from contact tracing or screening of a client's contact. So he said that he has a sexual partner. We want to assume that this sexual partner has the name James. And he doesn't know the last name of his sexual partner. He just met him at the club. So we'll say unknown. He doesn't have an address for the sexual partner, but he has a contact number. So we'll put in any number. And then he said that the client is a biological male. And then we save. Once you save the contact, the form is cleared for you to enter another contact. So let's look at a different, the other male sexual partner he has. So we'll assume he has a different sexual partner whose name is not given on the case scenario, but we'll assume there's somebody called Kingsley that he has. He knows him too well because he's a regular sexual partner, and he knows his last name to be Peter. He has his address. Maybe he doesn't want to give us the address, but gives the phone number. And then he said this is also a male. And then we'll save this. So for as many sexual partner or injection drug partner or that the client has, and the client wants you to do the contact tracing, you will list the names here. If there's any note here, in the case of Jeff, we have a note to leave here. We have told him to look for a way to disclose to his wife. He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to give us the contact. And so we'll leave a note here for any other user who is going to see Jeff or for the infectious disease clinic to know that the wife has still not been contacted or he has not disclosed to the wife at the last time he had a session at the health center. So we'll say Jeff is having difficulties disclosing to his wife. And we'll ask anybody to follow up in the future. So I just type this. So you will put a more comprehensive note if you want to leave a proper note for anybody who is going to have an encounter if he changes his health center or his testing site. So anybody who opens his file will see that he hasn't disclosed to his wife and can ask him, have you disclosed to your wife yet? Or help him plan a strategy to that disclosure and bring his wife in and his children in for testing as early as possible. If you have screening results that are like a report you need to upload, you come here to upload screening results or to paste the screening reports you have if it's a text that is written or if this is done in a lab and you want to type in a text. Now this is a placeholder depending on when integration happens. But for now, this is what you use when the event integration does not happen. So upload screening results that you have from the lab. That is not something you can select positive or negative, maybe an X-ray report or things like that. Now let's look at vaccination history. Jeff has a risk behavior that puts him at risk of having hepatitis B. You want to see if he has been vaccinated against it or offer vaccination of Hep B. I don't know if that is what is done in the country, but you might want to offer the vaccine if you give it at your site for Hep B. But first of all, you want to look at his vaccination card if he has been vaccinated against it, or if you have other vaccines that you want to offer. And so when you have his vaccination card, it is best to enter in his vaccination history from the card. So let's say that he has taken a Hep B vaccine a long time ago. So we'll say he said he was offered and he took it in November of 2021. And he took a vaccine, the first dose, in November. So he took it on the 4th of November. Sorry, this date is going to be the current date because we have the date of the vaccination, the date you are updating this record. So you read the form to see what date it is asking you for. The date for this vaccine was on the 4th day of November, 2021. Let's say his vaccination card said he took this thing at 1 or 10:02, 10 a.m. The manufacturer of this vaccine, let's say he took a vaccine named this by Merck, and the batch number is this. The place where the vaccine was given, the place of vaccination will be stamped as the current site. If you're entering a record from a vaccination card, you delete that to put the place where he took the vaccine. So let's say he was out of state when he took this vaccine, and this is where he took the vaccine. And the person who vaccinated him, according to his card, is somebody named, let's say, Ben And then we'll save this. You enter the next vaccine until you enter in all of the vaccination history of the client. Now the Hiv is a 3 series, right? So let's say he took the second dose 1 month later, and he took it on the 4th day of December, on the 3rd day of December of 2021. And he took the second dose here. And let's say he was in St. Lucia at the time he took this dose. Sorry. He took it on the 3rd day of December. Today's date is 31st of January. And he took this at 1:02 p.m. And he took a different brand and the batch number this time. He took it in St. Lucia. Let's say he took it at Sapian Hospital. And then the person who vaccinated him is somebody named, let's see, and then we save. So now you know that the last time he had the second dose of Hiv vaccine, it was in December, which means that he needs to have his 3rd dose. I don't know what the current series is, but the 3rd dose should be 6 months after the first. So 6 months after November should be in May. So you can give him an appointment to come back in May to take his 3rd dose of Hiv vaccine. So that way he's fully protected. I don't know if it's 6 months after the first or 4 months after, but depending on how your vaccination series is in your country, you will give an appointment to come for the 3rd dose. And then you fill in other vaccines that he has taken, regardless of whether it's complete or not. If he has had all his childhood vaccination, you want to put in all of the history so that everybody knows what he has already taken, what he doesn't have, whatever he's not sure of. You want to do an antibody test to find out if he has had it before or if he's protected, or you need to give the vaccine. It depends on what it is in your country. So once you get this done, you've collected all of the information for the clients that needs to be collected. And then you will go to referrals. You expand this. You are referring this client for HIV case, a new HIV case for management. If you had screened this client for TB and the person has TB and the person has other STIs, refer for HIV alone. Any client referred for HIV is going to have all of the forms generated. If the person doesn't have HIV and has TB and no STIs, refer for TB alone. If the person does not have HIV or TB but have other STIs, refer for other STIs. So if he has other STIs and hepatitis, refer other STIs for treatment and management. Only when the client has HIV, in addition to other conditions, that you refer for HIV alone. TB alone, refer for TB, not HIV. If there's no HIV, there is no TB, but there are other STIs and viral hepatitis, you refer other STIs. So you use the referral tabs. There are 3 of them based on the condition. So because he has HIV, we are going to do the HIV referral. And so we'll click on 31st day of January, 2022. We'll put in his unique ID, which was 991-234-567. His category is, we have adolescent, adult, pediatric, pregnant. So he is an adult, and we click on refer. Once you see a referral successful, all you need to do now is to follow up with the clients to make sure that the client goes to the STI clinic or the infectious disease clinic and is registered into care. Your job is done for now until the STI clinic calls you to tell you that you referred somebody on the system and they can find it on their list, but the person has not showed up. Then you want to follow up with your client to make sure that they go and get registered as early as possible. And this is all of the functionalities under today's agenda. Should I repeat this again? Any question, any clarification?
For me, I think you are clear. And if we're going over tomorrow, I don't think you necessarily need to repeat.
Okay. So tomorrow I'll be here from 9 to 12 for those who want to repeat again. And then we will continue to the hands-on section now, so that those who cannot make it tomorrow will have all of today and tomorrow's agenda done today. So now.
Wait, Mildred. So when you say hands-on session now, you mean the practice?
Yeah, the practice.
Oh, okay. I'll stay on.
Okay. So, so those who are on, we will have to create a practice accounts for you now, and we will start one by one. You will give me, I stopped creating the practice account because when creating the training account, there were a lot of email addresses that were bouncing back, and the users had to start sending in the correct addresses today. So I didn't want to go through the hurdle of creating and recreating. So I will create for those who are on the call who don't already have an account. And I'm going to check out who has an account and who doesn't. And then we are going to create accounts for those who don't have. And then we'll look at the case we are going to deal with. We are going to be put in breakout rooms. I'm going to visit each room for 20 minutes, and then we will discuss a case and enter in records for that case. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, it's okay.
All right. So we are going to look at the list of users we have here. And if you don't find your name here, we'll have to create you an account. So we have accounts for, sorry, give me a minute.
Mildred Carlisle will log into mine. So if you create one for me, Carlisle will be the one who will be doing it. I'll just look on. He's the one who deals with the testaments of God.
Okay, that's fine. Just give me a minute and I'll be back now. Hello, sorry. Yes, so we have on the first page, we can see all of the people who has an account. On the second page, you can see if your name is here and you haven't activated, you let me know. On the third page, we can also see the list of people with accounts. The fourth, the fifth. So who hasn't found their name on the list yet? I'll create your account now so that you can have.
Clever name is not there.
Okay.
And Telicia Bino.
You said?
Clever and Telicia Bino name is not there.
Okay, so give me the email address.
For who, Clever?
For Clever, yeah.
cleverw@gmail.com.
Okay. And you are screenings and management, general population, referrals, and updates, prevention control. So you check your email and activate that account.
Mildred, I'm not sure if I see my name there.
Okay, who?
Juliana.
Correct.
Juliana.
Okay.
DARROUX.
Email?
IZME@hotmail.com.
Okay. And this role is screenings and management, general population, referrals, updates, prevention control.
Okay, Mildred.
Who?
Yolanda.
Monica Lavinier.
I'm sorry, one at a time. I'm not hearing that.
Monica, MONICA.
Okay.
LAVINIER. Monica Lavinier at hotmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So who is next?
Yolanda Rodney.
Sorry, hold on. Okay, so the next person, Yolanda.
YOLANDA.
Okay.
Rodney, RODNEY - John Baptist.
Okay.
Rodney.
All right, give me your email first.
Spelled wrong.
Yeah, I'll go back there now. Well, I have to put in the email first before I can go back.
YOYO.
Okay.
RODNEY 1 @gmail.com. - John Baptist after Rodney.
Okay, so I will put that in now.
Yeah, JNO.
Okay, and screenings and management, referrals, updates. So we have some names in the chat, I think.
Is Carlisle Grant name there, Mildred?
Yeah.
Carlisle Grant, his name is there.
I'm not. I will check.
CARLILE.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
Grant, GRANT.
Okay.
Your email, Carly? SVG Spark. SVG SPARK.
Okay.
SPARKS at gmail.com.
Okay.
Yes. I can use the same address as well, email as well.
Yeah, it's better you use yours so that you can see your own records.
So,
but I think you already have an account, don't you?
I already have an account, and Carly has an account as well too.
Okay.
Yes.
Telecia Bino, TELECIA. TE.
It's CE. Okay, I'll correct that. I'll correct that.
BYN.
Last name?
BYNOE.
So you said the name is CE? CE?
TE.
Okay.
LE.
Okay.
CIA. CIA.
Okay. And then
T.
Okay.
NE. KE. Number 8.
Okay.
At gmail.com.
And then we select the role. So does anybody have anybody else?
Hi, Mindri.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, Luen.
I'm Mid. My name is Lujan Taveras.
Okay. Luen.
No, yes, Taveras, yes. My address is Arjen, A-R, yes,
Okay.
Taveras. My last name is, I have a Hotmail.
Okay. I think you
Yes.
already have an account.
But I don't see my name there.
You checked your spam?
No, I'm not checking today. No.
So you check your spam.
Okay.
I think you have an account already. Okay, you have an account already. So you have to check your spam and activate.
I can't remember. Since we're supposed to come and talk, consult them what was happening. So they were just talk my life today.
You see, you already have an account. Yeah.
I
So
don't
check.
think my name is there.
Okay. What's your name?
Navia, Navia.
Okay.
Jack. Navia Jack .sjck
Okay.
at Gmail.
So your account is already, you already have an account.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you check your email or your spam to activate.
Okay.
I think I have some in the chat. And you. Sorry, I've been logged out. So you have an account already, so you have to check. Any
Hi,
other?
Mary Keynes.
Okay.
I put my information, Mary Keynes.
Okay.
Okay.
Last name?
Mary
Email?
dot Keynes @gov.kn.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone need accounts? So now that we all have an account, I'm going to put you in. Yeah, so if you don't have an account on the patient monitoring and reporting system, you can give me your email and your name and email, and I will create your account, and you'll get an email. You activate your account, set your password.
Can I give you my full name and email address if I'm not already there?
Yes. So name?
Kevin Gregoire, Gregoire. And the email address is kbgregoire1@gmail.com.
Okay, so you will have received an email now.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we want to look at this vein white. And search this. So she doesn't have an account and create that. So any other person needs an account? Is everybody able to activate?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Hi, I haven't received the email. Let me check my junk.
Okay.
Well, I am not sure if I'm activated. I think I did. Andrea Williams.
Did you set a password?
I did.
Okay, so you are going to log into patient management and reporting system to get there.
Okay. Hello.
If you have not received an email, refresh your page, check your spam. So let me see if your account is correct. Okay. So Lindy, give me your full name, first name, last name. Let me create your account. Is this correct? Lydia, is this correct? Oh, she's not on the call.
I received the email last night and I saw it, but when I saw when you given the password in the email, you passing too fast, so I could get it my own. So if you can send me the email and the password so I can activate.
So what is your email address?
Okay, I will send you by chat, by the chat.
Okay, you already have an account, so you have to go to your email or your spam to get your activation link. I can't resend it. The system sends that automatically. So you check your spam or your junk and see if you got an activation email. And then you activate and set your password. I won't be able to send you your account because apart from creating, I have no control over your password and your activation. It is something you have to do and you have to receive your email. So you have to check your junk message or your inbox to see if you received an activation email. If not, I will have to delete and recreate your account. Okay, so for all those who have their accounts, we are going to go to breakout rooms. Before then, can you see the case scenario on the screen?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to deal with case 1 and case 3. You will try to enter the information or records for first case and the third case. When you get to Jeff, assume that his result for HIV is positive and his TPPA is also reactive, and then refer him for care and management. Enter some hypothetical sexual and injection drug partners. For case 3, I want you to try this on your own, and I will walk into each breakout room and we will discuss case 3 and see how we enter the information for case 3. So it is about Grace. Grace is 11 years old, so you will calculate her year of birth if she's 11 years this year, so which means she was born in 2011. She was brought in by her mother to the A&E because she has been raped by her neighbor's son. So she has been abused physically by her parents because of her perceived disobedience. She admits to the nurse that she has been sexually active since age 9, and the routine blood screenings will reveal that she is syphilis positive, she has genital warts, and she is HIV positive. So that will be the results for the screenings you will do for Grace. You will assume a last name. Make sure that each of your clients has an ethnicity, assume an ethnicity, and the other information can be unknown. So ethnicity must be there. Think of any ethnicity you want, put them under any ethnicity, and create the account and record their screenings. So I will put everyone in a breakout room now in groups of, so we are, let's say I'll put you in the groups of 3. Let's see if that works. So I'll put yours, let's say four per room so that we don't have too many rooms. So you will have like 9 to 10 people in a room. And so I will create, you get to your breakout rooms and we'll come back in 15 minutes. Well, we'll come back in 30 minutes. So let's go there.